Hello all, it is Catherine, Conscious Creatrix. Hello and welcome to this weekly energy check-in for the week of July 21st, 2019. Hello, and I hope you are all doing well. I hope that if you are here in the Northern Hemisphere that summer is treating you well, and if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, I hope that you are enjoying your winter time. So we've got some interesting, as always, I feel like I start every live this way, some interesting energies. They're always interesting to me. But today marks the beginning of, even though we've been feeling the shadow of this in the pre-retrograde, of Neptune retrograde. And this kicks off the next almost 5 months of energies that are, because it's going into Pisces, and Neptune is already a very, very watery energy where we are open to more of our intuition, being led by messages in our dreams. We are open to more lucid dreaming. We are realizing where we're going from being in that dream or fantasy state into actually doing. And Pisces is only going to amplify and ramp up this energy even more, and really getting us to a place where we're having breakthroughs and revelations about where we've been living an emotional life that has not been serving us. It's been a driving force in our lives that has been self-negating, because we are all emotional beings. We are all led by our emotions. But sometimes if we are ignorantly led by our emotions, we are living lives that are self-limiting. And we have no one else to blame for that other than ourselves. So in this time of the next, let's just say 4.5 months, close to 5, we're going to be getting real about who we are, our emotional world, our emotional life, how we have maybe been, internalizing that to such a degree where we are in self-delusion around it. But also that is all going to come up to the forefront, and we're going to kind of wake up and get real about where we've been maybe having this emotional resonance of who we are be this all-encompassing way of being that we've just become so accustomed to because we've lived this way our whole lives, but where this is starting to kind of crack open and reveal the true light of ourselves inside. Hi, Kristen. Welcome to all those who are watching. So this is a time where we really can't ignore the things anymore that we've been trying to ignore. And I know that seems resonant of many messages that I talk about here when I do weekly energy readings, but this isn't any more true than right now with Neptune retrograde and with that being in Pisces. Where you have bad relationships with yourself, with other people, again, that emotional resonance that you are carrying that says, okay, I have all these emotions. The composite of them makes them me. That creates an identity of me because I have all these emotions, because I feel sad. Then you say, I am sad, and that becomes an identity. It doesn't just become a mood anymore or a flight of fancy. It's your whole personal reality and your way of being. So this is where you've had any kind of fantasies, and where there's been kind of a very semi-permeable layer in between the fantasy ideal of you and the reality of you. This fantasy, the semi-permeable membrane, let's just say, is going to get busted wide open. Now, this is going to be painful for some people, especially for those of you who really need this wake-up call. If you've been in self-delusion, if you've been in self-deception about who you are, and this kind of, badge of your hurt, your pain, your suffering that you've been wearing on your sleeve for maybe your whole lifetime, this is going to get blown wide open for you. So to the degree that you are having this self-delusion about who you truly are, how you really lead your life, and what kind of emotions are leading you forward every day, to the degree that you hold that self-delusion about who you are and that internal reality that you've been denying, this is going to be blown wide open. This is going to be a bigger wake-up call for you, and it's going to be very uncomfortable. And one of the ways you're going to be able to see this, one of the ways this is going to be showcased for you, is that the relationships that you have with other people, and this is everybody. I'm talking about the dude you meet in the grocery store. I'm talking about your coworkers. I'm talking about your mom. I'm talking about your best friend. You are going to see yourself very clearly projected and mirrored in those people who are around you. So this is an opportunity for you to really opt out of self-delusion, out of self-deception, and stop wearing that emotional badge of honor that says, I'm so hurt, I'm such a victim, I'm walking around so wounded all the time. You're going to see that directly projected in the people in your life. so that you really can't deny it anymore. So that you can say, so you can stop pointing the finger of blame and saying, well, that's that person, that's who they are. Well, a big part of you is going to be projected in this person. And it could be anybody, someone who's very close to you, but someone you might meet in passing. You're going to see some things in yourself that you probably don't like. This has already happened to me this week alone. I did a live, I think about a week ago, where I started talking about I'm already feeling the very watery, emotional, fluid energy of Neptune retrograde, and it's already being very powerfully projected into my life, and I'm seeing where I'm holding on to patterns, ways of being, emotional ways of being, having an emotional identity that I've outgrown, that is really not comfortable for me anymore, and it certainly doesn't support me as a vessel for where I'm going forward and where I want to anchor my light, how I want to shine my light in the world, and how I want to be a powerful force for change. I can't be the victim anymore. I can't play the martyr anymore. It's just not going to work. Those are two mutually exclusive energies of anchoring your light and then being the victim at the same time. It ain't going to work. So those of you who might be doing the same thing, this is going to come up into high contrast for you, and it's going to cause some conflict within. That being said, what are you willing to do about it? Because Neptune retrograde is going to show you these things in very stark contrast, and you may have that inner turmoil, that inner conflict, this kind of battle of ego versus intuition. This is going to also come up in Neptune retrograde, and over the next 4 months, you're going to have a very beautiful relationship with your intuition if you allow that. Okay, so if you are someone who's already been working on, having that better seamless connection with your higher self, your intuition, and however you experience that, because the gloss over term I use for being in connection with any higher realms of consciousness, whether you call it your higher self, your oversoul, your angels, your guides, it's all part of the same energy. Hello, it's all part of divine intelligence. So however that translates for you, those connections are going to become better. They're going to be more seamless. There's going to be like a kind of a reaction in the body where you have a physical response where you know you're connected to that energy. You know you are in the place where you are communing with something that is part of that divine higher intelligence. There's going to be an emotional and physical response in the body that says, I'm tuned in. I'm with this energy. So that's really the good part of Neptune retrogrades. You'll be able to cultivate a better relationship with your intuition, your higher self, your guides, your angels, whoever you work with, that is part of that divine intelligence and, let's just say, omega point of consciousness in the universe. That connection is going to get stronger. But in that, you're going to reveal certain things about maybe patterns you've been holding, your soul being that's really crying out for self-expression. That's going to get louder. That's going to be probably a louder voice for most of you than the ego. But what are you willing to do with that? So one of the things that Neptune retrograde kind of nudges us towards is being able to actually go out of our dream state and our fantasy life of, God, I wish my life was like this. This is an invitation from the universe during this time in this retrograde to take this journey forward and take some action on something that just felt like a flight of fancy, a fantasy, some sort of dream way of being that felt kind of unattainable for you. This is an invitation for you to, whatever you saw more difficult there, to start taking steps towards that in a very profound and practical way in your everyday life. This is really provoking you to make big changes in your life, and it is because you're going to have a stronger connection with your intuition. You're going to be more connected, in more communion with what your higher self is trying to relate to you, trying to tell you the messages. Whether they come in during dream time, there's going to be a lot of what I call lucid daydreaming, where we're just going to have moments of profound connection, and it's going to feel very lucid and very deep and very vivid. And it could happen in the flash of an eye. It could happen in literally a couple seconds, but you'll feel it in the body. Again, this is where the energetic transformers in the body are really coming alive during this period of Neptune retrograde. And this is how your intuition communicates with your physical self. Okay? Pay attention. Be awake. Be aware. Because these nudges, these messages, even though they're going to come in very profoundly, some of us just don't want to pay attention, especially if it's telling us, our intuition is telling us something we don't really want to admit about ourselves. But I will tell you this, if you're continually glossing over the harshest aspects of your life and what feels uncomfortable for you, this is going to come up into high relief during this time, and it'll be impossible for you to ignore it. So why not just do something about it finally? That thing you've been putting off, that thing that you've been saying you're going to complete, that project that you said you're going to finally bring some closure to, that relationship that you said you're going to bring some closure to. You're not only going to be able to see where your things that maybe you don't like about yourself too much, but also the things that you do like about yourself. You're going to see that mirrored in other people. But you're also going to see, in very high contrast during this time, the people who are a part of your tribe, the people who are a part of your community, that you're going to have that level of discernment of, okay, well, I see this mirrored in me, but also this person is kind of toxic to me. This person, yes, they might be a mirror for things that I need to change and take some responsibility and accountability for changing in my life. But if I'm honest, this is really a person that doesn't resonate with me anymore. And if I do take this invitation from the universe to make these big changes, that will mean that I will leap forward into a higher ideal of myself. And that will render these people more obsolete in my life because they're not willing to participate on this level of my journey. They're not willing to support me even. Doesn't mean they have to participate and be a big part of your journey, but if you are honest with yourself and take a look at your tribe, your people around you, your circle, and say, if I jump forward, if I make the big changes that I really set out to do because I want to become the higher ideal of self, who's going to tag along with me on that ride? And if you're really honest, you know that there's some people in your circle who will not, and who might downright resent you for it. And then you will become a mirror for all of those things that they don't like about themselves, because that's just kind of how things work in the holographic nature of 3D reality. And so this is a time for you to get very clear on, okay, are these people in my circle, or are these people kind of forming a cage for me to stay in? Because sometimes when we are continuing to manage the expectations of people who are keeping us in a place of self-limitation because we feel we owe them something, could be family members, could be friends, could be coworkers, could be a boss, it could be a child, it could be one of your children. Their inability to understand or support where we're going can often make us feel like, well, it takes too much for me to want to explain this to them. I'll just stay where I'm at because I want to make them comfortable, and ultimately it's going to make me more comfortable. That lie that you tell yourself, that self-delusion, is going to come up in very high relief at this time too. So wherever you're doing that, think about, are these people in my circle, or are these people forming a cage for me? This is a time this is going to come up in big way for a lot of people who have been kind of deluding themselves about the people who are in their tribe, their immediate circle, for a really long time, and have been trying to consistently manage the expectations of others just to not rock the boat, to kind of keep the status quo where it is. But this is limiting. This is a wake-up call, and this is going to be big for a lot of people. The other thing I wanted to say about Neptune retrograde is that, yes, your intuition. So how good are you at being able to discern the voice of your intuitive self versus the voice of your ego self? There's a big difference. You know, the intuitive self is really subtle energy, and a lot of people don't get what that means. But your ego voice, think of it this way, it's always heard loud and clear. It's always going to tell you things from a fear-based or survival-based perspective, okay? You know, your ego voice is going to sound like, don't do that because X, Y, and Z will happen, or you don't know what will happen, or something bad is going to happen. What will people think? Who do you think you are to do that or say that or whatever? Why would you do that? You've never done that before. Yes, but I can't, I won't, I shouldn't. That's your ego voice, yes? And oftentimes it is loud and clear, aka your inner critic, your inner judge, okay? Basically, any objection that comes up for you that reeks of complacency, of you staying in your comfort zone, having a comfort zone mentality, it's a solid cue that you're hearing the ego mind talking to you and telling you to stay right where you are. Now, the voice of your intuition is very subtle energy. It allows you instantly, really, if you're tuned in, and during Neptune retrograde, we are all more tuned in to our intuition. We kind of had that kind of lucid, fluid, beautiful connection with our intuition. It kind of flows in and out. But when we are tuned into that, it instantly allows us to feel in sync with something greater in the universe. If you're paying attention, you can feel the expansiveness in your body. There's always a physical cue that goes right along with you having an intuitive sense of knowing. Your body is always giving you feedback, okay? Whether you're paying attention to that, and if you're present and in the moment enough to realize it, that's a whole other story. But your intuitive sense, your sense of knowing, it doesn't initiate feelings of anxiety or fear. It's never going to feel big or expansive in the sense where it feels too big, like you're biting off more than you can chew, like it's scary. Your intuitive sense doesn't really do that. It just sort of kind of nudges you towards like, this feels bigger because it feels like a greater possibility, a greater potential for me. When you hear or feel the voice of your higher self communicating with you, you also feel this, again, you get that physical feedback, you get that physical cue. You feel that gentle nudge from the infinite. It's a creative part of self. It is your creator part of self, that divine, infinite field of intelligence that flows through you, through me, through everyone we know, okay? And it feels expansive. And it has this kind of strange cocktail of feelings of you feeling awake, you feeling present, grounded, yet expansive at the same time. You feel at ease and supported, but you also feel the excitement of something new at the same time. These are all feelings that seemingly are contradicting each other, but this is how you know it's an intuitive sense coming to you. Even if you can't articulate what that is, all the more reason for you to go into the body. If you feel like you're in anxiety mode and you want to start biting your nails, that's probably some ego impetus, okay? But if you're feeling like, this just feels big and expansive and I feel tingly, I feel the hair standing up on the back of my head or on the back of my arms, or as my friend likes to call it, Buddha bumps, not goosebumps, Buddha bumps. I love that. But you feel in touch with the more spiritual part of yourself. You feel acknowledged, you feel honored, you feel seen by something greater than yourself, greater than your ego self. And you are open to a level of creativity and a perspective that feels greater than the ego scope of consciousness. This is the greater power, also known as the infinite but intuitive self, allowing you to be alerted to the soul being that you are. This is an invitation for you to start paying attention to what is being communicated to you from the soul level of being, not the ego level of being. And this takes practice to get used to this, but you can only do this from a place of awareness, to get used to these physical cues, to the feedback your body is giving you saying, I'm tuned in. But there are things in your body, let's just call them energetic transformers, that are highly tuned during this time of Neptune retrograde. That's what allows your body to have feedback saying, I'm tuned in. Messages are coming in, I better pay attention. I feel this nudge, I feel this cue that something is expanding. A potential is opening to me, an opportunity is presenting itself to me. Pay attention, because all of these cues, these nudges, this feedback is heightened during this time, okay? And yes, this is an invitation, as always, to look for that greater connection with the higher energies to get more feedback about your higher purpose, your mission, your soul's purpose, your life's mission while you're here. Reacquaint yourself with the wisdom of your intuition. Play with this energy at this time. It's your oldest and dearest friend, and your intuition has one purpose and one purpose only. It is there to serve you in your highest good. Every single person on this planet is born with intuitive wisdom, and that includes you. It is a soul gift bestowed upon you by the divine. Everyone has this. It is what links the human aspect of who we are to the eternal infinite nature of our soul, so that there can be communication between the two. We all have access to this. Some of us ignore it. Some of us are really good at tuning into it. We all have the ability to cultivate it and make it more of a skill to be intuitively aware. That's up to you what you decide to do with it. But this is a time to hone that gift during Neptune retrograde. Your soul wants you to remember your true nature as a human being, as an infinite being, I should say. You are blessed with the gift of direct knowing. You are blessed with the gift of intuitive insight. You are blessed with the gift of strong instincts. What will you do with this during this time to drive your life forward in a more favorable way? It's entirely up to you. And the gifts of insight are going to come in fast and furious, fierce and flawless. But are you paying attention? Are you willing to act on it and take practical steps to move this nudge forward in a very tangible way in your physical existence? Entirely up to you. You're also blessed with, as a human, with a gift of free will. So what will you do with that once you have these nudges and you're being shown a greater way, you're being shown a higher ideal? What will you do to move yourself towards that? So enjoy this time. Play during this time. The universe loves to play with you. If only you would allow yourself to play with it. So enjoy this time. It can be painful for some of you, but if you understand that life lessons are going to be revealed in such a way that it is always a gift for you, as I call it, the gift in the garbage, to drive your life forward in a more favorable way where you are reaching towards, striving towards your higher ideal. So anchor your light, stay in your light, even when the universe and your intuitive self is showing you shadow. Choose the light. Even when you are in your deepest, darkest shadow, ask your intuitive self, your higher self, your oversoul, your angels, your guides, whoever, help them by asking, because they can only really help you if you are exercising your free will by asking, show me the light. I see the shadow, thank you. I see this gift in the garbage. Show me the light. And don't be surprised at what kind of information comes in. Don't be surprised at what guidance, what passageways open up for you. So have a beautiful week, everybody. Love and peace.